Alrighty, buddy. Welcome to a kind of a random thing I decided to do. I'm in the story mode for the Star Wars Battlefront 2 game that came out a while back on the PS4 and the Xbox. I'm here partially because I was just looking for something random to do, but also it gives me an opportunity to talk about some of the complaints with this game, and in particular with the story mode, and some of what's valid and some of what I think is kind of on the fence. First, let's take care of this. See, the thing with the story mode here is I don't think it's bad per se, but it's not great. It represents a lot of lost potential because this is, as everybody probably knows, just shortly after Disney got ownership of Star Wars and Kathleen Kennedy was put in charge of that. The issue, of course, being that, you know, as things went on, it got a lot worse.
Never crossed their mind.
To be fair, we're operating outside protocol. We should have just blown up their ship.
You shut up for a second, Hask.
For this to work, we need to be subtle.
I understand, Commander.
Anyway, like the character of Iden Versio, I actually don't think she's written badly. She's not invincible. She's not flawless. The issue comes in with the writing of the story itself.
This is Admiral Akbar, calling the invincible
Akbar. Well, there's somebody they just disposed of real fucking unceremoniously in the movies. Goofy little turkey baster weapon. Now we can go into first-person mode if we feel so inclined.
Slice, please.
We'll do that for a little bit. But, it's because Iden's not written poorly, but the way they have her operating in the story, it's kind of cliche, and a cliche is not always a bad thing, but it's kind of cliche nonetheless. You have the person, you have the bad guy gone good, but they jumped the shark too early, and I agree with my brother on that one, is you didn't have near long enough actually, playing somebody who's a member of the Empire. And to be fair, on the advertising front, that's what they were selling this on initially, was that you were going to get to play a member of the Empire. And you do, initially, but it's not long before, the storyline has, oh, well, now you're joining the rebellion. And while I do enjoy the gameplay a lot, I played the shit out of this game, I will definitely agree that, yeah, they jumped the gun way too quickly to throw everything in with the rebellion, because this was after the whole, meltdown with the prequel trilogy, George selling it off to frickin' Disney, and them doing the whole Abrams treatment where, yeah, we're just gonna go back to quote-unquote basics. We're gonna go back to the rebellion era because that's what everybody wants, and the problem was that's what the vocal group wanted, but it wasn't what everybody wanted. Yeah, the prequels got their problems. As I've said in other stuff we've done, the original trilogy had problems. But so much hatred and anger built up around the prequels.
Understood.
I'm not fucking with that astromech. Built up around the prequels that, it was this derangement almost at one point. Oh, the whole George Lucas ruined my childhood, all this goofy shit. Oh, hi. Ooh. Became such a thing, and that's why George, eventually threw up his hands. He's like, I don't think I could do anything else with this. My kids don't really want to deal with it, so I'm just going to sell it to someone who I thought I could trust with it, who, of course, immediately proved him wrong. But when it comes to the writing here, it feels like there were two different people or teams, I don't know, who did some of the character development writing and some of the story writing. Oops.
It's time.
Because there are elements of... Ooh, yeah, give me that.
Secure a blaster and reach the extraction point.
there are elements of the story, really, of the storyline that I like, and there's elements that I don't like. Now, I've already been over the, like, we jumped, oh, this has a scope on it. We jumped into joining the rebellion way too quickly. Because some of my favorite parts of the game are these where you're actually fighting the rebellion for a change, and seeing how, you know, the more competent end of the Empire actually does things. Which is just fun. Sometimes, you know, you want to play the bad guy. And they give you that for not nearly long enough, really, as much fun as it can be. That was a really dumb idea. And Aiden's development makes sense as you go through the story, but it's too rushed. And that does affect some of her character development, because if you're paying attention to the plot, you can see why she would want to leave the Empire, because the new leadership of the Empire after the fall of Endor, in their opinion, is going too far, it's doing shit that doesn't make sense, it's jeopardizing their own worlds and people. Okay, that makes sense, but it needed to be handled a little bit more gracefully. And it's clear that the story writers got given some very clear directives, which... Oh. Okay, which one of you motherfuckers is that? Where'd you come from? And unfortunately, those directives are not exactly conducive to the best writing. Ooh. Okay, magic ragdoll. I'm okay with it. Okay, you guys are being idiots, so I'm just gonna open this door now. And the storyline itself gets a little... Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah, let's do that. Why not? Can I do that? I can't do that yet. Wow, somebody's being a dick. That ain't good. Ow! Okay, fuck it. Let's go through the door. Something about the door panels, but it wouldn't let me. So let's just do that one instead. Hi, have fun with it, dickheads. But anyway, the story itself is part of the problem, like the main campaign, because it jumps ahead. There is a point where, yeah, they look and they're like, okay, yeah, this is getting... Well, two members of Inferno team are like, this has gone too far. Why are we sacrificing so many of our own people for this plan to be executed after the Emperor is already dead? And that, I believe, as a plotline makes sense, and that could drive them away, but they're so overboard on the rush nature of it, and the fact that, like, there's no... Okay, I can't say there's no build-up, but there's not enough build-up to this plot and the execution of it. It feels like the story team really did get rushed to some extent. Okay, shut that door. And it does hurt the overall plot when everything seems to be in such a damn hurry to get to one specific part. Jeez. Okay, well that door's not doing anything. There's probably somebody, yep, in this room. You can stop that any time. Oh, shit. A little more accurate than the E11 I was using in fucking Jedi Outcast. Then again, the E11 itself is more accurate in this game, so what can I say? Him? Okay. So there's that whole issue, and unfortunately, the further you get into the story once you're in the rebellion, the more the story beats get really, you know, more predictable, because we've seen stories of the rebellion. That's the problem a lot of people didn't know or didn't want to admit initially, is that we've seen the rebellion stories plenty of times over the years. And like the third-party media, there was tons of stories about, you know, the rebellion fighting the Empire. And that's fine, a lot of people like that, but, you know, you can do something different. Before Disney took over, if you look at the expanded universe, there were plenty of stories just about shit going on in the Empire, or during the fall of the Empire, or even some during the formation of the Empire. It's like the Empire is kind of a big determining point in a lot of stories in Star Wars, or at least it used to be. the problem is they've now been boiled down to this. They're smart when it's convenient for them to be sometimes, but then they turn stupid on the drop of a hat for the sake of convenience, especially in some of the newer movies and shows. We're like, oh yeah, they're a huge threat, and then 2 days later, they're just complete morons. You don't need that door open. And it's a big fucking issue with the writing. Sit down, all of you. We're leaving now. Uh-huh, that's nice. Stop that. So that in itself becomes one of my big problems. The plot stuff where you're playing as actually with the Empire are more interesting, I think, inherently. And the story beats when you're joining the rebellion, they're not terrible necessarily, but there's a couple of points where, very notably, it feels like, you know, how do I put this? They're relying too much on some nostalgia when it comes to some of the stuff when you're fighting with the rebellion. I like a couple of the characters that you run into with the rebellion, like the really cynical Duros pilot that you end up working with a lot. I like the other member of Inferno Squad that defects with Aiden. But again, the writing of the story itself kind of fails the characters on a number of levels.
Mission accomplished, Commander.
0 casualties. Looks like you're still second in command.
Oh, I'm patient. I can wait.
That's not
Agent
ominous
Miko.
at all.
Those jump cuts.
So, and the other issue is, once you get to the point of the rebellion, you know, there's a couple of moments where it's clear, no matter how much fun the sequences are, where they're banking on the nostalgia factor. There's a point where you play as Luke Skywalker, which is fun, but the way they put it into the story is kind of abrupt. Oh yeah, this is, again, it's kind of a cool way to do it, but this is during the attack on the Death Star. And it's interesting seeing it from the perspective of a different Imperial officer, since this is during, like, you know, the whole attack on Endor and that Death Star. But there's a point where you're playing as Luke, and it feels so forced in, no matter how much fun the mission is. It doesn't quite work. It serves as a nice thing to display how even-handed Luke is, and how he's supposed to be, but at the same time, you know, The Last Jedi ruined any of that, for one thing. But at the same time, it's just suddenly there, if that makes any sense. It's like, oh, well, here's Luke Skywalker suddenly. And they make it part of the plot, but at the same time, it's dealing with that whole map thing from The Force Awakens, and it just doesn't quite work because, much like the whole map thing from The Force Awakens, it's just kinda never brought up again. After that mission, you barely hear about it again.
Single target on the trail ahead.
And I want to demonstrate something. How much more accurate the E11 is in this game, just because it amuses me to do so. But that's kind of some of my problems with the whole bit of the plot. And then there's a similar thing later. It's less forced, I'll put it that way, but there's a bit where you play as General Organa, you know, Leia. And I'm like, in that part in the story actually makes sense because you've gone down and you're trying to defend against an Imperial incursion / invasion. And she's there in the field as she, like, would be, because it's this whole thing going down on Naboo, if I recall correctly. It at least makes sense for her to be there. She's not just suddenly there because plot reason that's never returned to. But it still feels like somebody went, oh, we should probably put this character in here. And it still has a fault because of that, in my opinion.
Wait for my signal.
Yes, Commander.
Droid, disable them.
Get that guy. Did you hit 2 of them? Oh, you did? I didn't even know you could do that. But as you can see, I still enjoy this game. But I definitely have to address the flaws with it. In particular, whoa! Oh! in particular with the storyline and some of the writing, but also the whoops. Yeah, that's hot. Don't do that. But also the nature of, you know, how some of this is written, and I'm gonna be that guy, and I'm gonna say that unfortunately a lot of it has to do with the influence of, you know, the at the time Disney-run Lucasfilm and the influence of Kathleen Kennedy, because this was made before. And say what you will about him, because I have my share of opinions, but this was before. You know, oh God, why did I just forget his name? Dave Filoni got put in any kind of charge, and before he, you know, started to ruin the character of Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. What the hell is that? But of course, that brings back the other issues. Like, Kathleen Kennedy was in full control at this point because she'd just been given it. Ow! Who is that? Oh, it's you. Come here. Gotcha. Cool that down a sec. And so directives were still coming directly from her. She hadn't gone as insane yet. But some of the cracks were already starting to show with the directives given to the story team for Battlefront 2. And unfortunately, when you get to the, you know, the further in the Rebellion campaign you get, the more you can see those cracks because of how everything's rushing to, like, very specific points. Or not. Like I said, you can see what period this is set during.
The Emperor underestimated the strength of our...
It's kind of exactly what you're doing right now.
Commander, permission to speak freely.
Granted.
I know we're alone, Iden, but that sounded treasonous.
Dude, the Emperor is dead. The Emperor's dead as fuck. Or at least he would be if a certain fucking people in Disney hadn't decided to bring him back from the fucking dead. And I love Ian McDermott, by the way. I thought he was the best fucking Palpatine, and one of the most entertaining things about the prequels, among many other things that I liked, but bringing him back was so fucking weird. Hi, since you want to come up here, let me greet you properly. What have you got? Okay, never mind.
It's one they deserve.
So I think I've beaten that horse enough, per se. I really enjoy playing the storyline, but at the same time, there are so many problems with it, guys. Did you not do that? Oh, never mind. There, that one.
The rebels have them pinned down.
Down. Shut up over there. So I realized this was not the most focused attempt at making this kind of conversation, but I also just felt like playing the game and thought that it'd be a good time to bring some of that up. Ow.
That's all of them. Time to keep moving.
Moving up here. This is, holy shit, a fucking disaster is what that is. Let's get out of there. Go, 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 go. But yeah, as I was saying, it was like, I was going to use this to have this conversation. Yeah, conversation with myself. Discussion, whatever.
Landing across Endor. They're deploying troops all over this move.
Well, what kind of surprise is that?
Commander, look.
What? Oh. Oh, you wings. None of that for you, thank you. Officers. You, shut up over there. Now this, you may have noticed, doesn't have an aim down the sights. That's because that's where the grenade launcher function is at. Shut up. You ain't getting any. So, considering as I don't think anybody's going to be interested in watching a full playthrough of this, I just decided I'd do an episode of it just to have something different for you guys to see and a little bit of a discussion. This game got a lot of well-deserved bullshit when it got released. But to be fair to the developers, not the parent company, because EA are kind of dickbags. But to be fair to the guys at DICE at the time, the fuck are these?
We're gonna take back that platform.
They did what they could with what they were given, and then once they were allowed to, they went back and gave people a lot of what they actually wanted. And ironically enough, a lot of what people were asking for was prequel and Clone Wars content. They were sick of, because they were dogpiling in the Disney trilogy stuff, which of course they're under the license. It's what they were expected and demanded to do, so that's what kept happening. And I was on the forums at the time, people kept saying they wanted prequel stuff. They wanted prequel characters, they wanted clone troopers and droids. And eventually these guys actually started doing that. Well, they weren't the officer. And when they started doing that and adding more modes, both online and offline, balancing things out, removing the stupid monetization thing, because that's the first thing everybody brings up is the monetization thing. Oh, shit. But they got rid of that fairly quickly because, shit, of the backlash that they got, to their credit, and not because anything other than EA getting their asses handed to them and the game getting lambasted by everyone. It was not a gesture of good faith on EA's part. It was because they were in panic mode. So I will say full on, they only did that because they were in deep shit and they knew it. It was severely bad press. Holy shit. But once DICE were allowed to fix things, they did. Damn it. Normally I can hit that thing easier than that. As expected, this thing is going to take fucking forever to hit with a blaster. Or not hit with a blaster, but to take down with a blaster. And I somehow keep missing with the rocket, which is very odd. But I have not played this in a long time. Okay, now I need to move. Somehow you motherfuckers managed to steal this thing. I'm assuming it was idle at this base when you guys arrived. But yeah, at that point, they started giving people what they were actually asking for. They stopped front-loading all the fucking Disney sequel trilogy crap. And they started adding Clone Wars maps. And, you know, even some classic stuff that hadn't got in yet. And then the game became a lot more fun it was actually fun to play again. It wasn't just a monetization scheme. And that was, you know, a massive improvement when they killed the monetization and they focused on the actual game development, which is what they admitted we should have done in the very fucking beginning. Would you mind shutting the fuck up, sir? And the unfortunate point is, in a lot of cases, especially on the internet, once something's done wrong, very few people will acknowledge when it's fixed or done right. You only have to look as far as the Cyberpunk release and the aftermath of that to see that again. And Cyberpunk was legitimately released in a very bad state, especially depending on which console or PC version you're talking about the release of. But when they went back and they fixed it, they fixed the hell out of it, much like what they did with this game. And the difference being that eventually, word about the support for Cyberpunk went back up again, and it started actually getting considered a good game. It was worth giving it another shot. Which, in the case of that, I was glad that they at least got that, because this game never did. There's still some people who still play it like me, and it still has people playing it online, I've noticed, which is kind of funny. But for a long time, this was being held up as like the worst game ever, you know, the worst Star Wars game ever, and dozens of other very unpleasant things. And a lot of other people, the one that really made me laugh, when people were talking about this is the worst game DICE had done, and I was like, oh no. There are a number of Battlefield games that DICE was responsible for that were handled much worse. If you want to start splitting hairs like that about DICE, the developer specifically. This had a lot to do with demands and mismanagement from EA and freaking Disney's licensing demands.
Agent Miko, that's your TIE fighter.
I'll cover you until you escape.
And it was bad. It was undeniably bad. And I would be I would be lying. I would be fucking rose-colored glassing, to put it in a crude manner, if I didn't admit that, yeah, it was not good on release. It was a mess. The online was screwed up. There were barely any single-player like things to do. It was, as I said, very front-loaded with Disney Star Wars content by demand, and the monetization was fucking ridiculous. I need to get rid of that officer. Yeah, you. And I'm not gonna, you know, blow smoke up anybody's ass, no matter how much I enjoyed the game, to say that it didn't have a shitload of problems on release. My frustration came in that a lot of people were just so bitter by then, they didn't want to admit when things actually did get fixed. And that was, what the fuck is wrong with you? Where the hell did you assholes even come from? Yikes. Oh, there's a heavy over there. The fucking course there is. Hey, buddy. Shut up. Sit your big ass down. Oh, there's that officer. You can shut up, buddy. Are we dropping no damn turrets either? Oh, right in the face. I think this is where I'm gonna go ahead and stop this. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this. And that's all I'm gonna go on about that. It's like two sides of the coin. You know, there's the good and the bad. And the bad, as is usual in the internet, gets covered a lot more than what little good there is. And frankly, the growing distaste and distrust of Star Wars as a brand and Disney itself has not helped with any of those issues either. But as I get ready to board the Starfighter, I'll be seeing you guys later. Have a great day.